Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrew Jacob Winley and I make content for the people who are looking to know more. Today I have a special guest with me. She and I have been friends for a long time, going back to high school. This is LaineBut. She also is another YouTuber. I'll go ahead and link all of her information down below. She has some great content, so please go ahead, follow her down below. Today we're going to be talking really about something that is very, I guess, important to both of us. A few years ago, we both were diagnosed with celiac disease. And I would say it's pretty hard to really adjust to that lifestyle.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
really we just wanted to talk through kind of what that experience is like and maybe to give a little insight and to offer a little sympathy and empathy for the people who are struggling with celiac so you can be more accommodating and welcoming. So I guess today we'll just go ahead and just ask the questions that were asked with as people with celiac disease, and then just basically answering the frequently asked questions that a lot of people have. So first question, is it really that big of a deal, or you make it seem so dramatic? Is it truly a big deal that having celiac disease is?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. It is. It is really dramatic in so many different ways. Obviously, the most important thing is not eating gluten. But that kind of like shows up in a ton of different ways in your life. So you have to figure out what is gluten. You have to figure that out. We'll talk more about that later. But once you do that, you realize that gluten is in every single food ever. Literally like things you would never think of. People know that like bread and pasta have gluten in it, but it's literally everything. So you have to completely you have to learn how to search out those ingredients and find different names for gluten, and also like cross-contamination is a huge thing. So there are a lot of levels to it, even like just on the basis of finding out what you can and can't have.
And like as an actor, I have to have stage makeup, and a lot of makeup too has gluten in it as kind of a binding ingredient. So it's used in everything.
I found out this week my shampoo and conditioner have gluten in them.
No.
So I am now using different shampoo and conditioner.
Oh, no,
But
I'm so sorry.
yeah, very disappointing.
That is. So when you have to go to the grocery store, what is that process like?
So when I was first diagnosed, actually, I saw a dietitian and she put me on a diet for 6 months that basically had me only eating whole foods like fruits and vegetables. I wasn't supposed to eat meat or have like animal products very often. I wasn't supposed to really have any processed foods or sugars. So honestly, that was miserable, but it was a good reset for me to learn how to eat healthier foods and not rely on like packaged and processed stuff a lot. But now off the diet, it is still kind of challenging because I either have to research everything before I go if I'm not just buying a literal fruit or vegetable, or I have to stand for 10 minutes, in the middle of the grocery aisle looking at the ingredients list and then searching on a ton of different websites if it's actually gluten-free. Sometimes I have to like sign up for a website in the middle of the grocery store to like access the ingredient list. And of course, like there's ways to avoid that, but it's just compared to like normal eating, it's such an extra step and it's so time consuming.
It is. When you have even just a bite of gluten, what does it do to your body? So
I have the blessing and curse of having something called silent or asymptomatic celiac disease.
Same.
Very fun. Which basically means that I don't get the like normal symptoms of celiac disease that a lot of people get. So usually for someone with celiac disease, if they ingest gluten, that's like really bad stomach problems and diarrhea and all that fun, digestional issues and stuff like that. I don't have those issues, and that's why it took so long for me to be diagnosed with celiac disease. But I do get neurological symptoms and stuff like that, is like dizziness and headaches and feeling really lightheaded. Also, I had really poor circulation in my fingers and toes. It would be like 60 degrees out, and my hands and my feet would turn white because they just like were frozen and not circulating. So that's what happens to me when I eat gluten. But it is a lot harder to tell because obviously, like, being dehydrated or not having enough sleep is also a cause of those symptoms.
I guess the frustrating part is even if you don't have a lot of symptoms, it's hard to tell what's actually happening internally, because in the small intestine, the gluten basically acts like a razor to what are like little hair follicles sticking out of your small intestine, which is basically how you digest food and how you get all of the nutrients. So when that actually happens, your body now, you cannot get any of the nutrients from your food. It comes in and it goes out. So it really, you're eating, but you're getting nothing from it. So really you become more and more like a walking zombie.
I remember in high school, I got really into lifting weights,
Yeah.
and that was a ton of fun, and I should probably start doing that again. But my goal was always to put on muscle. I was playing volleyball. I wanted to get stronger, and I would like calorie track like crazy and meal prep every week and eat, tons of food and tons of protein, and I could never gain the muscle that I wanted to because my villi, I guess, were not like absorbing any of the nutrients, and it was just going straight through me. So.
And that's just like one of the most frustrating things is, you are putting in so much time and energy to trying to better yourself, but you just can't, because literally your body it's impossible to do that, so like that goes to say you can't have just one bite of food of gluten. My mom actually accidentally was given a plate of normal pasta, and I wasn't. I got the gluten-free, and thankfully the pasta shapes were different, so I was able to see. But she took one bite of an actual piece of penne. It wasn't like a crumb or cross-contamination. It was a full-on piece of penne pasta, and thankfully I was able to notice that before she started eating more. But like she was down for a couple of weeks just from that one bite, because it killed her internally. It sucks. She's not one of those people who is asymptomatic like we are. She, like, the first time she had gluten, she couldn't get herself off of her bed. It drained her just to walk the 20 feet to the bathroom. And unfortunately, that's not uncommon. A lot of people have that problem. A lot of people have other symptoms.
And
yes.
that's a really good example of, like, yes, it really is that deep and that dramatic, because to work a few hours a day from home instead of 40 hours a week in person is a huge, a lot of jobs are not going to let you do that,
right?
And no, a lot of people don't have time to take a couple weeks off of their life. And I mean, even if you do, you don't want to. So.
Yeah, or the capability financially to do that.
Exactly.
Something that I've gotten a couple times is just like, this is so inconvenient for me. And so why do I have to go through all of this with you? Have you had that same experience?
Yes, definitely. And I don't want to be too specific because it's hard to relate to this. Like, I honestly remember not understanding your issues and problems very well until I actually had celiac disease myself. So it makes sense why people are ignorant and don't understand at first. But yes, definitely. So obviously the amount of restaurants that I can eat at are just a fraction of where everyone else can eat. Which you figure out. But the thing, most of those restaurants are more expensive, and they have healthier options, which not everyone likes, and
we love the
less
fat
options.
stuff.
Stuff like that, and it definitely is an inconvenience to other people. I don't want to pretend like it's not, and I understand that it's frustrating. Yeah. But it's there's no comparison.
Right, we don't want this to sound like a pity party at all, because that's not our intent. We just want to educate, really, and the more that we can do that, I think the better we as a society can be at just accepting other people for who they are, and that's really where we're wanting to be today. So just want to make sure that everyone knows that, and not that we don't care about anyone else, because that's not true at all.
I think something you said reminded me, just something to keep in mind when you know someone with celiac. Obviously, whatever choices a person wants to make for their body, whether that's being gluten-free just like for the health benefits, or being vegetarian for like sustainability reasons or something like that, those are all fine and you should respect those. But this is something that we have not chosen ourselves. Like,
it's something we have to struggle with.
I would have done by choice.
Right. I mean, like, it's something that I might have decided to do at one point in my life, to just try going gluten-free. Maybe. Probably not. But it's a possibility. But this is something that's a little different, that we have to, we are, I guess, we're tormented by it day in and day out. Like, we can't decide, I'm going to have a cheat day today, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Next question. What is gluten?
Great question. So gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, and you probably think of things containing gluten, like I believe I said before, pasta and bread, just anything with a lot of grains in it, and that's definitely true, and we have to find options for those. But gluten is literally in every single thing. It's in gum, it's in like different candies, it's in my shampoo apparently. Just like any makeup you mentioned.
Yeah, sometimes even dental floss.
So fun.
Right?
So it's really hard to avoid. So gluten is used very often because it's cheap. Like people, especially wheat, everyone uses wheat and it's something we have a lot of. But it's also a binder and it makes things really sticky. And like pizza crust, people use wheat in pizza crust commonly because it makes it sticky and it doesn't fall apart. Gluten-free pizza crust or gluten-free cake batter, anything gluten-free, you're probably going to notice, especially while you're cooking it, that it's a lot more crumbly and flaky and hard to stick together, and you have to figure out ways around that. But that's another reason that it's so difficult, is because like gluten is a useful ingredient if you're not allergic to it. Yeah,
it's honestly, I'll say it, it's a blessing. Gluten is amazing, and there's a reason why it tastes so good and why it's in everything, is because it's just so beneficial and useful. And so when we are forced to go a route where we cannot indulge in that at all, it's just, it's quite challenging. Because as we said, it is in everything.
So this is one that I've heard before a lot. My friend with celiac eats gluten, so why can't you? If you have celiac disease, you should not eat gluten. That's obvious.
Period.
But I know, like, my mom had a friend whose husband had less severe symptoms and everything, and he would eat gluten about once a year at, like, a restaurant that him and his friends always went to. And it's obvious that that's not good for your body. I'm not going to do that. I don't think you're ever going to do that. But really what it comes to, it's our body, it's our choice. If someone decides they need to eat gluten at a special occasion or something like that, that's up to them. But it also, like, we have to set our own boundaries. We don't feel comfortable eating gluten, and we're never going to do it again unless there's a cure. So, go ahead.
Like, if you do decide to eat gluten, just know that it is affecting you internally, even if you are asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to know that, for the next few weeks, you're going to be hurting your body, then, I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop you. But it probably isn't a wise choice.
Right. You can't base your one experience off what someone does and apply it to us and tell us that we need to behave that way.
Right. Because, I mean, as you said, like, please respect each person as an individual and be respectful of their boundaries and what they decide to do. Because that's just honestly just being courteous.
Yeah. And some people will decide not to eat at other people's houses, or like I have a wedding coming up that I know that I'm going to have to eat before because I assume that they will not have gluten-free options, and I also, this could be a bad thing too, I guess, but I don't want that to be like, I don't want to have to inconvenience someone with that. So that's just what I'm doing, and that needs to be respected.
All right, next question. How common is celiac disease?
So about 1 in every 100 people have it, which is 1%. Unfortunately, obviously, there are communities that don't have as much access to testing or like access to buying gluten-free food, and a lot of people also have silent celiac disease and have no way of knowing that, which is why a lot of people don't get diagnosed or get diagnosed really late in life. But yeah, about 1 in 100 people.
Yeah.
So for you, Andrew, how hard was it to stick to your diet initially, and how hard is it now?
That's honestly a great question. When I was diagnosed, I wasn't the first member of my family to be diagnosed. So my mom was diagnosed about 8 to 10 months before I was. So my house had already transitioned to being solely gluten-free anyway. So whenever I was at home, I had, gluten-free food. So that wasn't too big of a struggle. But every time I went out, obviously that was the problem, because now I didn't have to, I couldn't buy or get anything off of the normal menu. Now we have, instead of the 20 or 30 different options of food, we now have maybe 6.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those typically are salads or just like straight up meats. So a lot of the complex meals really aren't possible. So that was really discouraging to me at first, and then I just kind of got used to it. Randomly, I'll just kind of have moments where I forget that I have it. I don't know if you have this, but thankfully I haven't done anything disastrous, but I have just had moments where I just kind of forget, and then I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll have to go check that place out, and then I'm like, that's a freaking bakery.
Yeah.
I can't eat anything there. I walk in and I'll die. See, there I did it. I talked about death.
Yeah, I always say, like, when I'm talking about it with someone and I'm frustrated and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm probably going to die 20 years earlier now, but it's fine.
Right? Yes.
Might be true. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me, though, even now, is the social aspect of having celiac. Because I didn't realize this until I had it, is that eating food and eating a meal together is such it is a moment that you get to share with individuals. As Americans, we're not good about that. We are very time oriented, that we don't sit down and have meals together terribly often, but when we do, I think everyone comes out of it saying, wow, that was fun, or I really enjoyed that. So every time I sat down with my teammates before a game, I had to have my own food, or I'm at a restaurant and I have to eat something completely different than anyone else is, or I have to take certain precautions that they don't. It puts a natural barrier between me and everyone else, and then it almost seems like that hogs the conversation for 70% of the time. And I'm just like, can we just live? And can we just like enjoy the time together and not have to be focused on what I have to struggle with every day?
Mm-hmm. That was something that really bothered me and took up a lot of time at first. Was like, I'm already making these changes, I'm already missing out on social things. Like, I was diagnosed I think like 5 days maybe before I moved down to like a different state and a new school and started college and all that. But yeah, I swear every single time that I actually got to have a meal with people, we spent the entire time talking about celiac. And when I was first diagnosed, it was so emotional and so dramatic for me. Again, being asymptomatic, like the science was there, but I didn't feel like I had it because I couldn't feel it like happening to my body really. And that was all we talked about. And I was so angry at the world and at my own body. It was like, why do I have to, I'm trying to escape this. Why do we have to talk about it right now?
Right.
I have like 2 to 3 crazy dreams every single night. I think like the first 9 months of having celiac, I dreamed about eating gluten every single night. So yeah, it just never goes away. But as for like cravings and stuff, or like what was the question? Oh, like sticking to your diet. For me now, I feel like it's earlier. Honestly, a lot of the time, I actually just drove past I actually just drove past a restaurant that's like a block away from here on my way here, and
Is it
I was
the chicken
like,
and waffles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I used to go there with my dad and my sister, and I was like, I drove past it. I haven't been here in a while, and I was like, oh man, I can't go there anymore. But I should tell you about it because maybe you would like it.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah, I know.
But yeah. I think the hardest thing for me though was like checking ingredients, and then ultimately kind of I have made a lot of like healthy changes in my diet and stuff, but deciding like I'm just gonna stop trying like gluten-free but not certified gluten-free things because I can have something healthier instead. I don't know. It's a lot of responsibility. To answer the question simply, not that hard anymore on my own. Hard for other people to respect it, hard to find things that work for it, but actually like eating, your cravings do go away, honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like. But it gets easier as time goes on.
Yeah, and thankfully there are a lot of brands that are starting to come out with some better food. Like, I don't know if I should do this because, you know, sponsorships
Please
and stuff.
sponsor us.
Please do. Oreos! Like, there were gluten-free alternatives to Oreos, but they were not good, and they were not...
They're not real Oreos.
No, they're not. Do you want one?
I guess. I'm not gonna
Why
say no.
not?
I had my first gluten-free Oreo this morning, actually.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so crazy. It's such a foreign taste.
It's so good. Like,
I wonder.
I totally forgot how good they were.
Rice flour and tapioca starch. Oat flour. Nice.
Well done, Oreo. All right, so next question. What's something that people without celiac should know?
I think the biggest thing for me, which we kind of did touch on before, you really can't know what this is. I mean, maybe you can know what it's like to have a different really limiting allergy, but if you don't have this experience, you don't know what it's like. And you just like can never, I mean, I'm sure there's some like very specific scenario where you could relate the same or more, but otherwise you really like, you just don't know what it's like. There's no like replacement to be able to understand like all the changes and all the sacrifices and like missing out that we have and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, there's just really no comparison. And it's really hard, and you should like respect that. Again, it's not a choice that we've made. It's
Right.
not something we can change.
Yeah.
And I don't know a ton of people with celiac, but I don't think it's ever something that we like choose to make a big deal because it's fun to make a big deal out of
No.
it. Like it's not like a trendy diet or something. It's a
Right.
permanent life change that's never, like, I never get to go back, you know?
Right, unless you're like a gluten-free influencer. I haven't really found anyone who truly wants to make it publicly known that you have celiac. Because honestly, I just want to be known for me and not for the disease that I have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also something I like never, honestly, I mean, it's only been a year and a half for me. I still am not super eager to bring it up with new people. I kind of had to when I moved to Nashville. Like, that was, everyone is always going out and getting food together or eating in the cafe, which I couldn't do. But it's still something, honestly, that I have become more confident in, but it's something that I hate talking about.
Right.
I'm thankful for my diagnosis, but I still do hate that it's like a part of me. And it's still emotional, and it's still socially limiting, and it's still just time consuming and frustrating.
Do you ever have moments, sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good.
Do you ever have moments where it hits you more than others, where you're just more frustrated or more touchy than others?
Yes. Well, I think definitely when my like limits are pushed or people aren't respecting my boundaries, sometimes it does just really hit me. Like, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but I worked out at some points in high school. I was working out 8 times a week, and then the summer before the summer that I was diagnosed, I was working out 4 times a week. I ate pretty healthy for the most part. Like I said, I was calorie tracking and meal prepping a lot of the time in what would have been probably a really healthy way if I were not like I was never seeing results, which made it really frustrating. And I didn't have any other allergies. I didn't have any other health problems really. And this was just like a huge wake up call and slap in the face the fact that I'm not invincible.
Right.
But sometimes that just like hits me now that there's something huge like wrong with me. And if I just like sit and think about it too much, I'm like, wow, this really sucks. It's never going to change.
Yeah, and I think for me, again, it's just the social aspect because I'm an extrovert. I really enjoy being with people. I love connecting with other people. And when I recognize the fact that my abilities to connect with other people are limited, that's when it truly affects me the most.
I think a word, when you talk about that, a word that comes up in my mind is communion. And
oh like, my gosh.
Meals are a form of communion, but literal communion you can't participate in.
That hurts so much.
Yeah.
Every time I go to church and they say we're taking communion today, because my church doesn't take communion every week, it's every 3 months or something, because it's that way it's very special. Mm-hmm. But when we do, I tear up every time, and it hurts.
Mm-hmm. Especially to be in a place that you're supposed to be, loved and accepted, come as you are. And again, obviously there's reasons for it. Obviously, probably
sure.
No one else in the congregation has that problem.
Right.
You want to talk about restaurants?
Yeah. So a couple days ago, I ended up putting out another video that's kind of just like a Q&A for myself. I put out an Instagram, I guess, question and answer. So I ended up making a video answering all of your questions, and I ended up getting a response saying, what are some of your restaurants that you go to? Because I have celiac as well, this commenter said. And so what are some places that you found that you've really enjoyed?
The first ones that come to mind, Ezra's Enlightened Cafe, which is in Broad Ripple, Indiana, and then, oh shoot, what's that place? Public Greens.
Oh yeah, there actually is one just outside here.
Oh, wow.
But unfortunately, due to COVID, they're closed currently.
Yeah.
Their, I guess, sister or parent company, Cafe Patachu, is so good. They have a couple locations around Indianapolis. There is one in Broad Ripple. There's one here downtown as well, just like half a mile away from me. So I get to walk over there occasionally.
Nice.
And then I think there might be one in the Indianapolis airport as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking up one on...
You're good.
I always forget. It's like numbers, and I always forget.
While you're looking that up, a couple of fast food options are Chipotle. They just have brought out a cauliflower rice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's a little more expensive. It's an add-on, but for people who are trying to do like a keto diet or something with or like a grain-free, that is a wonderful option. I've also found that Five Guys has been pretty good, especially both with Chipotle as with Five Guys. I would recommend going to the locations that are in a little more of a nicer area, simply because more people are accustomed to eating different diets. And so at Five Guys, they will change gloves and make sure that everything is scrubbed down. And then at Chipotle, they will change gloves, change all of the utensils that you will use for your particular bowl or your bowl, and then they will wipe down the surfaces, the the counters, so that way there's no cross-contamination there. And then one person will take your meal the entire way down the line, so that way there isn't any cross-contamination with the handing off from one person to another. So again, I would recommend doing that at, like, eating specifically the fast food restaurants that are in nicer areas of town that have a lot of foot traffic. So in Indianapolis, like the Keystone Mall, or in particular suburbs, as well as the downtown area usually is pretty good as well.
Honestly, I don't eat fast food very much just because, like I said, I had that diet, and then I just don't really like fast food that much. But I do eat Chick-fil-A fries.
Chick-fil-A!
They have like separate fryers for everything they make, which is really nice, just the way everything is like packaged and separate.
I've had some grilled chicken sandwiches there at Chick-fil-A. They just came out with a spicy grilled chicken sandwich. So good! I hadn't had one of those, like the spicy chicken sandwiches, since before I was diagnosed. So thankfully they finally put it on their grilled chicken.
Blessed. Very nice. Do you have any other fast food that you want to say before I get into
fast food? No.
Nope, that's not what it's called. 1823 Bakehouse in Franklin.
Franklin, yes.
They're pretty good. Kind of a long trip for me, but that's okay. There are a couple places in Nashville that have been pretty good. Nashville is, getting gentrified and stuff. So, but they have some good food options because of that. So True Food Kitchen is one. Actually, they might have one of those up here. True Food Kitchen in Nashville. Bar Taco. They have a lot of locations across. Bar Taco, everything is celiac safe except for like their desserts and like 2 menu options, which is really nice. And they're like very good at communicating about allergies with you.
I've found Condado tacos are good.
Was the tamale place gluten-free?
The tamale place.
I went there with you one time.
Yes, the tamale place is so good.
I haven't been there in so long.
And then there is Brew Burger.
Oh yeah.
Which is great. The downtown location, you can't have their fries because they freaking bread them.
Yeah, I actually just found out, I don't have McDonald's very often, but I did find out that McDonald's breads their fries, and I had been eating them.
I'm so sorry.
I know, it's really bad.
Maggiano's is good, which is an Italian restaurant up by Keystone. There are a couple pizza places that I've found. There is Pies and Pints, I believe, in Carmel. There is, let's see, there's another one in Carmel. Mellow Mushroom, which is...
Really?
Yes.
They're good for it? They're in Nashville too, and I had a gluten, or maybe like a couple gluten-free pizzas of theirs, but then I was like, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, they're fine.
But that's really good to know.
Yes, yeah, so Mellow Mushroom is good. P.F. Chang's is pretty good. They have a gluten-free soy sauce that they use. Let's see.
Every time, I swear, every single time I get takeout with my family, it's P.F. Chang's.
I haven't had that in years. Let's see, what other places? City Barbecue also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I've had some of their stuff since I was diagnosed.
There is an all gluten-free bakery in Columbus, Ohio that I actually was able to do a video for a year or so ago that I'll go ahead and link that in description, or I'll put it in the corner or wherever it is in somewhere. So you can watch that. So good. There are a few others around.
I know Dunkin' Donuts has a new gluten-free brownie that's like made in a separate factory.
Are they?
So yeah, I haven't had it, but I've heard good things.
There's a bakery in, I think, Fishers or Carmel that employs solely people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
That is all gluten-free. And is
they have
so
like
good.
Creative things.
Yeah,
too.
it's so good.
We went there around Father's Day, and I went with my dad. They had like a maple bacon cupcake or something like that. Really like different stuff. It's fun.
No label at the table. So that's an all gluten-free bakery here in Indianapolis, which is great.
Also, the macaron shop downtown, all their stuff is gluten-free because you don't use regular flour. Yeah, so that's really nice. It's like almond flour, I think.
Sub-Zero as well.
Oh yeah, I remember I went there.
Yeah, you have to be a little cautious of all the mix-ins and stuff, but a lot of their flavorings I think are gluten-free. Which, and then it's just a reason and an excuse to just go see liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
So why the heck not? There is one place that I've found absolutely impeccable with eating almost anywhere that you can just feel incredibly safe. And that is at any Disney property.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when I went to Disney World back in high school for the first time, they actually said, like, yeah, every time you come and you say that you have a gluten allergy or, celiac disease, they always know what that is. A manager or the chef will come out and talk to you about it, and they will bring it out to you separately. So they are overseeing everything.
Right.
And I don't know if this is true, and Disney, please do not, ban me or copyright this or anything. I don't know how that works, but I heard, and it might just be a rumor, that if someone mentions that they got sick after after it was mentioned at one of their restaurants, then the chef is fired. I heard that. I don't know if that's true, but they have training, I think, every month for employees, both for the waiters, waitresses, as well as the kitchen staff, to make sure that everyone knows what the heck is going on. So they take it super seriously. That's at Disneyland, Disney World, the Disney cruises even, and then also some of the Disney resorts around the country and the world. Probably also in Disneyland Paris and everywhere else. They truly take it seriously, and I was spoiled there. I think I gained a few pounds when I was there because, we just ate so much because we could. Because I think that's something that I've realized is that when I'm able to eat something, I eat a lot of it because I'm just not able to a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is really impressive. It's the happiest place on earth.
Happiest place on earth. And the most magical.
That's another thing. I turn 21 next year, and so many alcohols are not gluten-free. That's going to be real fun trying to figure everything out.
Yeah. I'm over 21. I drink occasionally, not terribly often. And I primarily just drink ciders. Those are so good. And they're almost always 99% safe because it's literally just apples. It's nothing like a vodka or a bourbon, which is, distilled. It's just apples. It's alcoholic apple juice.
Huge plus to being an adult.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who has been recently diagnosed, if you know someone who's been recently diagnosed, or not even recently, but if this is new to you, you're probably watching this video for a reason. We just want to offer some words of encouragement, really. It is really hard at first. It was so emotional. Like I said, I couldn't even escape it when I was asleep. I still dream about it a lot of the time. Things do get better.
They do, and thankfully that is a blessing, and you find that there are people out there who are going through it at the same time. They're at different parts of the journey. I mean, I've been on this for 7 or 8 years now, and I can say that it does get better, and thankfully the country and the world are recognizing that it is vital and it is very necessary to talk about and to recognize. So there are people, there are companies coming out with new stuff all of the time. So I just want you to know that, please be encouraged. There are people out there who are going through it, and it's going to be okay.
We talked about how isolating it is and how you feel like you're separated from other people that you were once connected to. I would say that's one of the upsides of the journey, though, is that you meet other people with celiac disease who you never would have connected with on the same level. That you realize that you're not going through it alone, and that other people are having the same problems as you, and other people will try out the gluten-free restaurants with you as well. Like, there's I don't know, it gets less lonely as time goes on.
It does. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you, LaineBut, for sitting down with me. It's been so fun, and taking time out of your day to just go ahead and do this with me. As we said earlier, I hope that this was educational and didn't seem like we were bashing anything or anyone, because that obviously was not the intent. If you haven't subscribed to The Life of LaineBut, please go ahead, do that. She is an incredible creator, has some wonderful content out there. Please go do that. And yeah, so if you enjoyed what you saw today in this world of just continuing to learn more about, you know, life and how it affects other people and just worldview, please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and I would love to see you in the next video. So please comment down below what you would like to see, and I will get to those hopefully coming soon. See you guys.